So I want to welcome you all to the Stanford Women's Health and Sex Differences in Medicine Wisdom Center and Stanford Cancer Institute Symposium on Sex-Specific and Sex Differences in Cancer. I'd like to acknowledge our sponsors, Steve Artandi, who's the director of the Stanford Cancer Institute, and Melissa Bondi, who is the chair and professor of epidemiology and population science and associate director of the population sciences at the Stanford Cancer Institute. I'd like to tell you a little bit about wisdom before we get started. We'll start promptly at 10:40 with our presentations. I am Marcia Stefanick. I'm the director of the Wisdom Center, Women's Health and Sex Differences in Medicine. I want to give a big shout out to T.O. Pricing for the amazing work she's done putting this webinar together and working with all of our speakers. She's our Assistant Director of Operations, and Amy Lang, our Administrative Associate. The Wisdom Center went through a strategic planning process, which, as you know, always comes up with vision and mission statements. Our vision is healthy women and men from conception through the life course. And we should really add and non-binary persons. Mission, advancing human health across the lifespan through research and education in women's health, biology of sex differences, and gender medicine. As I mentioned, we started with a strategic planning process that went on for 2 years with some of the leaders at the Stanford School of Medicine. We launched the center in 2013 with funding from all of the departments of the School of Medicine matched by the Dean's Office. And we continued in 2016 with approved funding from the departments in the Dean's Office. And this summer we got committed funds again to continue through 2024. We have a website that I encourage you to go to. All of the talks from today's presentation, from today's symposium, will be posted on the website. We have an amazing advisory board. I won't go through all of these names, but these are leaders and thought leaders throughout the School of Medicine. We have representatives in every single department in the School of Medicine, almost every department, there's a few missing, and also the Institutes of Medicine. So we have an extensive network of faculty who share with us what's going on in their departments, who we should be working with and trying to encourage to take our seed grants. The Wisdom Center is very committed to education. The medical school curriculum, we do have a sex and gender minorities and sexuality working group. I also have been participating in the sex and gender health education summits. The first one was at the Mayo Clinic in 2016. The next one was in Utah in 2018. And we just did a Zoom program in September trying to get this into the medical school curriculum, try to get sex and gender into the medical school curriculum. I'm also on the advisory board of the Office of Research on Women's Health, and I'm happy to say that Stanford therefore contributed to the strategic plan for advancing science for the health of women, which is the plan that will continue for several years now. And a really big emphasis is on the NIH policy on sex as a biological variable, or SAVB. Also, at Stanford, we have quite a few activities. So we have a Women's Health and Sex Differences Scholarly Concentration Program. We have the Women's Health, well, we were initially, but we advanced that, promoted that, expanded that by virtue of having Mitch Lund come on board as a co-director of what is now Women's Health and Sexual and Gender Minority Health in our scholarly concentration. And this includes the Med Scholars Program. We also offer through Wisdom a course on current topics and controversies in women's health. That was one of the very original scholarly concentration courses. We have a course on sex and gender and human physiology and disease, sexual function and diversity in medicine, which incorporates queer health in medicine, health impact of sexual assault and relationship abuse. We have a course on global medical issues affecting women's health. This is taught by Clea Sarnquist, who is a global health expert. Clea also co-teaches a gender and intersectionality and global health course with me. And I have a new intro sim on challenging sex and gender dichotomies in human biology and medicine. Every year we have a basic and translational research symposium on sex differences in the winter. We have an annual Women's Health Forum in the spring, And we have special programs in the fall, of which this is one of them. I also want to mention these Women's Health Forum that we started this as Women's Health at Stanford, which was a program within OBGYN. But in 2012, we made this our inaugural Wisdom Forum. We then had a set. One was on cancer and survivorship with Susan Love as our keynote. The next year was Global Women's Health with Ruth Levine. And then chronic disease prevention. I was the keynote for that. In 2016, we did Precision Health for Women as a track in Stanford Health Matters. We moved our regular meeting to fall in 2017 because we wanted to welcome Leslie Subach as chair of obstetrics and gynecology. She's a real advocate for everything that we stand by, and we still welcome her to Stanford. We're pleased that she's been here 3 years already. That fall, we did Gender Matters, Why Sex and Science Isn't Enough. We actually had Jane Clayton as our special guest that time. We also then did Prioritizing Prevention in Women's Health with Kirsten Bibbins-Domingo as our keynote. She was the chair, she was the head of the U.S. Preventive Services Task Force that year. 2019, we did an annual Women's Forum on Women's Global Health with Mary Ellsberg. We had to move our Sexual and Gender Minority Women's Health Forum from 2020 to 2021 because of the COVID, but we are planning to do that in 2021. We also do these basic and translational research symposium on sex differences every year. So we started with a Beyond X and Y with the Cardiovascular Institute in 2010, and then had a special one for cardiovascular in 2021. 2013, we focused on neuroscience. 2014, we started partnering with the Institutes of Medicine, doing immunology, then cancer with the Stanford Cancer Institute, cardiovascular health, neuroscience with the Wu Tsai Stanford Neuroscience Institute. We then partnered with the Department of Genetics on Y, X, sexy chromosomes. 2019, sex differences from conception through puberty with the Maternal Child Health Research Institute. This year we did sex differences in the sensorium, focusing on vision, hearing, smell, and sexual sensations, again with the Wu Tsai Stanford Neuroscience Institute. In 2021, we're planning to do sex differences in pain. And today we're doing our special cancer, sex-specific, and sex differences with population sciences.